Welcome, everyone, to the ACL Athlete podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about everything related to the ACL, whether that's the injury itself, the rehab process, return to sport, and more. I'm your host, Dr. Ravi Patel, performance physical therapist and coach. Between myself and fellow guests and experts, you'll learn through the lens of the patient, the healthcare professional, and the coach. The goal of this podcast is to equip you, the athlete, with the education to make the best informed decision about your care and your ACL journey. Thanks for joining. Now let's dive into today's episode. What is up, team? We have a special episode today. Episode 200. 200. That means that this podcast has been going for 200 weeks straight. Yeah, I'm that weird and I have a podcast all dedicated to ACL rehab and I just can't stop. And in all honesty, I love doing this and showing up every single week for all of you. And this one's very special because it's our 200th episode. It actually falls on a week here in the States, which is Thanksgiving week. And I've done this for the past 3 years now, the AnnKNEEversary episode. So I'm going to keep going with this theme. It's a fun one to do. And if you have listened to all 3 of the previous ones, I appreciate you for being here, for being on this ride for so long. And if this is your first episode, I'm sorry, but not sorry. I hope that this hits you in the feels a little bit because it is going to be a little bit of a feeler episode. But this is one that I want to do today. And when I was brainstorming what it is that I wanted to talk about for this particular episode, the title Little Moments came up. And just kind of this theme around this and something in my life and just working with our team and ACLers, just kind of thinking through all this, the little moments became the topic for today. So that is what we're going to dive into. But before I do that, the first thing that I want to talk about is really just being thankful for this platform, for all of you who spend even a second and a minute listening to this podcast. What was literally just a dream and honestly just something for me to start, just to put thoughts together. I did not think for this to turn out the way it has. And so for all of you who have supported this, who have shared this, who have sent me messages, who have been able to share this on different social media platforms, it means the world to me. And so this is something where I just want to share what we have accomplished together, and it's because of your support. We have hit 219,000 downloads and counting, which is just wild. We have impacted and got into 148 countries and different territories all around the world. Almost 8,000 different cities, 7,939 different cities to be exact. So that is just crazy for something to be so dedicated to ACL rehab. Kind of shows you this is something that people need some help with, but also just the fact that people still continue to show up, listen to this, and hang out with me. In all honesty, it means the world to me. So thank you all for your support. Really in the feels this week with Thanksgiving and just with having our son now, and it's his first Thanksgiving and as a family. And so just with the business as well, and with all the ACLers we get to work with and connect with, and the clinicians and coaches we get to work with, thank you. Now, anniversary, this title comes from a cheesy way to say your anniversary for your ACL knee surgery. So I had my second ACL surgery Thanksgiving week. So I always remember this time of year, the same time is when I had it. And I'm always reminded of this as well because there's always a photo of me that pops up this week on Thanksgiving week, 11 years ago now, which was my second ACL surgery. It was at our last home game at UGA, University of Georgia, as I was an undergrad student. So I was a senior, and this was a night game, and it was a big deal to be a UGA fan, but it sucks. I know all of us with ACL World has probably experienced this, where you had to kind of miss out on something you wanted to go to, whether it was in those early stages, post-op, maybe it was traveling. For me, in that second surgery, it was going to our last home game as a student, right? So I couldn't go because I had ACL surgery. The timing worked out around Thanksgiving. So I had to watch on the couch while I watched all my best friends all go to this game. And I know this is like a first world problem here, but in the moment it sucked, right? But this is just something that I'm always reminded of, more so from a time standpoint, in terms of my knee surgery and getting onto the road of recovery, especially for my second ACL. Now, if we're looking fast forward now to current day, things have been super, super busy, especially now with our 8-month-old and running a business. I thought I was busy before, but man, having a kid now, and especially a young baby, and running a business and still kind of wearing all the different hats, this season really does redefine what busy is for me. Every single minute matters that much more, and you just get less and less of it to dedicate to specific things. And that brings up this idea of the little moments and the theme of this episode for this AnnKNEEversary. And if you're not here for the feeler episode, I get it. But if you are, then lean into this, because I think anyone who is going through this process, or maybe you're just a supporting role, maybe you're a PT, just want to listen in on this episode, then this is something that you can lean in on, because anyone can take something from it, no matter if you're going through the ACL rehab process or not. And so this is just something for life in general. And this is more so related to me as going through this season and wanting to share it with you guys, not only as a business owner, as a father now, a husband, but also as working with ACLers, our team, myself, and just kind of pulling from these different themes that we're seeing. And so the thing about this little moment, and big moments, if you will, just moments in general in life can be made up a lot of these big moments, or another way you can kind of think of as an ACLer, the big milestones, right? Think about it as like getting off your crutches. That's huge, because now you don't need to rely on your crutches. Driving again, being able to do a full bike revolution. That's huge, because then that means you've gotten enough flexion to be able to ride the bike or do that without feeling like you're stuck on this like kind of back and forth little wheel. First jump, right? You take a little hop. Maybe it's getting back to running, and it's something that opens up the door towards so much more and feeling athletic again. Back with your team, right? If you are playing with a recreational team or a school team, being able to get back with your teammates and actually participate, that's huge. And of course, there's the big thing, right? The thing that you just want to get to, fast forward to, and be able to get back to playing your sport or your activity. Maybe it's soccer, maybe it's MMA, maybe it's skiing again. The list goes on of a number of different things that people want to get back to, but that's a big milestone, right? And these big moments are the ones that might feel like they stand out, or the thing that you're aiming towards. But in reality, all these big moments are just a bunch of little moments leading up to it. And those big moments are far and few between, if we're being completely honest, whether that's in life or whether we are talking about specifically ACL rehab, right? Especially once you get out of those early stages of ACL rehab, I kind of call the honeymoon phase, where you might be seeing progress after progress, getting that flexion back, getting off your crutches, being able to take stairs, no longer needing help with things, being able to drive again, and just noting those milestones, and more importantly, just that progress that is accumulating, especially in those early phases. Let's say like the first, especially 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you're noticing big changes. But then once you get into mid and late stages, it's harder to notice that progress as much, right? And so that's where these big and little milestones can play into this, right? Because there are the big milestones that are anchoring this process, and then there are those little milestones that come into it. And so the thing that is important is that if we're always looking at these big milestones or these big moments, then it kind of sets us up for maybe not as much involved or enjoying the process as much. And this kind of arrival, if you will, at a destination, it ends up feeling more momentary. Then we can build it up to being, right? Like once we get to this certain point, we're like, all right, yeah, this is it. And then all of a sudden we get there and then it's there. It's still important, but that big moment doesn't last as long as we think it will. And then we're kind of on to the next thing. It's kind of like the moving goalpost. So for me personally, while being a parent has been fun, it's been crazy busy, as I had mentioned earlier. And it's easy to let the days pass super quick and just lose out on where we are with where our feet currently are. So that's where this little moment concept kind of comes in. That's what life honestly is. And even in this ACL process, lots of the little wins and the moments building up, if you will. And for me and my wife, we sat down and we talked about how we can slow things down and be in the day-to-day versus waiting to get to this big moment or this big break. Because guess what? There's always something after that, whether you move the goalpost or some sort of other thing comes up where you might have felt that small break, but then there's something else that shows up. We all know this. This is life. This is also ACL rehab. And the thing is that we want to make sure we embrace the process and the journey, not just the outcome or the destination, right? And that's the biggest thing here is like a lot of times we can get so focused on like, let me get to this or let me get to this end point and then I'll be good. Or, being able to make sure that like I am able to get back to running or I hit this certain quad number and then I'm good. But then it's the next thing, right? And so this kind of comes back to more so of embracing this process because I think that's really important and embracing the journey because that's what's going to make up most of ACL rehab. And that's what's going to be life too. Sure, there are certain milestones like getting your driver's license, graduating school, going to college, all the, typical things that are big milestones in our lives, getting married, all these things show up, but those are just very rare moments in time. But then it's like, what about the in-between? Because those certain points are only far and few between. So then therefore, it means we have to kind of embrace the journey of getting there in that process. And so for me and my wife, we wanted to try and make this as practical as possible. So what we did with this to be able to just kind of embrace the little moments in the day-to-day is we started putting a sticky note each night on our mirror before bed. So on the sticky note, we each had to just kind of write down a little moment or something that stood out to us that was a moment, nothing grand. It could be something super small, like talking to a friend, or it could have been, our little guy, like having his cute little baby laughs nonstop for like a few minutes because I was doing something stupid. So it could be literally anything, but it was something that we started to do a few months ago, and it has been actually really awesome for us to do it. And now on our bathroom mirror, we have all these sticky notes, and it's funny, we can't actually use the full mirror anymore. So we have to kind of find spots where we can actually operate and use the mirror if we need to. But it's honestly been so great for us to stop, to slow down, to count each day and cherish that versus waiting for these far and few between big moments or these big milestones, if you will. It also helps keep us accountable to each other to know at the end of the day, we need to stop and we need to reflect on this. So we need to have a little moment, if you will. So have to really slow things down to do that and be thankful for every little moment of each day. And I know that this is super cheesy and some of you are probably like, no, this is not me. I totally get it. But for some of you, this might hit. And I think in the current world with which we live in, it always feels like it's the next thing. It's the go-getter mentality, grind it out. And it's also like, I need to achieve this and I need to do this. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it almost steals the happiness of the current moment and the days that we're in. Whether you're in the ACL rehab process, whether you're dealing with some sort of other life stuff, or just as a human operating through the current state of in which we live in society. And it's freaking hard, y'all. And so my goal is always to make sure, like, how can I bring value to you that is applicable no matter what situation that you're in? And this is honestly something that has helped us so much through especially some rough days. And let me tell you, we have had some really, really rough days just with having a little one, some things coming up, and some sicknesses and whatnot that we've had to deal with, that we've never done this before, and also had some kind of rare instances we had to navigate. And so with that said, it has made it hard as parents for us to navigate this process, but we've had each other and we've luckily been able to kind of get through it. And one of the things that has helped us a lot is honestly, even on those rough days, knowing like we have to still account for a little moment. And I guarantee you, even on your hardest days, you can find something in there, as small as it is, to be able to count as a small win. And so this is something where I'm asking you guys to kind of lean into this and kind of nudge you in this direction, because we can all use a little bit of positivity in our lives, be able to do something a little bit more practical in order to show gratitude. And I think that this is something that I just want to share with you all. And even from an action item standpoint, the biggest thing here is find a way to collect those little moments or those little milestones or little wins for yourselves. My ACLers, I always call this the small wins. There's always some sort of win that you can find, whether it's just like you literally got on the bike for 5 minutes, or, you did 10 quad sets today, or you ended up going to the gym for 10 minutes instead of not going at all. Like, it doesn't need to be this grandiose, like I started running today, or I PR'd my squat or my leg extensions. It could be the smallest thing. It could be literally my knee feels a little bit better today because I decided not to do too much yesterday because I was on my feet. It's the small wins, right? And so I want you to be able to collect these things. And it could also be just being able to get out and go hang out with your friends, show up to a team practice, be able to go talk to your coach, and be able to kind of start getting that feel of getting back into your sport or, your activities, right? And I have my athletes with these types of things write these down in a journal, or maybe it's a notes on their phone, or maybe it's a reminder set every night to fill it out, whatever method you want. Or you could be weird like us and find a spot on your wall, your mirror, your closet, etc., right? Just a spot, and get a stack of sticky notes and do it every night like us, right? And this is something that you can visually see. I will say, man, it's been pretty cool to read all of them, and it reminds us of those moments. So when we come into the bathroom every day, we see all these sticky notes, tons of them. And you could just kind of read different ones and just kind of see what those little moments were. Nothing big. Sure, there might be some ones that stick out more than the others, but you get to read all these and you get reminded of these moments and all of the little things that kind of added up, especially towards any big moments we may have had. And so, for example, our little guy started crawling during this period. So it's fun to see that sticky note where we're like, he crawled today, right? But there are all these other little things leading up to that were still just as enjoyable, and we were able to appreciate that and look back on it. And I'll tell you, on the days that are really hard, it is really great to just be able to look at this, because we're able to say, man, we have a very blessed life, and we get to do this thing day in, day out with each other, and be able to just kind of like sit and reflect on these little moments. And we're so thankful for that. And I think that's one of the things in this process that is important for ACLers and anyone who is also listening, supporting this, to be able to just kind of slow down and appreciate not only those big ones, but the little moments and those little wins. And when you're having a hard time, this can be so helpful, because the thing is, like, this is going to be life. And if we just wait for the big moments, we might have to wait a while sometimes, especially if we're in ACL rehab, maybe we're dealing with some setbacks. But if we embrace the little ones, those little wins, if you will, well, those happen every single day if we can find them, especially the little moments. So I want to make sure you can translate this to your ACL rehab in life. So maybe this is something that you needed to hear because you feel stuck, or you need something to get the momentum back. So my suggestion, give this a shot, stick to it for even 7 days, right? Just do 7 days. You're like, all right, I'm in it enough. I've been doing this for a week. And then from there, you can decide if you like it and keep going. If not, then stop and say you just gave it a shot, right? But 7 days, I feel like is like a good sweet spot where it's like, all right, it's a very achievable thing. Set aside literally a few minutes. We're busy as humans. So set a reminder on your phone. Just be like, all right, I'm going to do this every night before I go to bed. And it allows us to have a little bit more gratitude and thankful for our lives. And also, especially whenever we feel like we're in a season or maybe the day just sucked, like your knee just bugged out, or maybe there was just something life related, you're going to be able to like look at the list of things that you're like, wow, I know that this is only just a moment. And while there are good moments, there are bad moments too. But with that said, you're able to see the little moments and all those small wins stacking up that you're just like, I know that this too shall pass, right? Going back to the previous episode. But with that said, you're able to have a little bit more gratitude, and you might not feel as stuck as you think you are in this process. You might actually be making a little bit more momentum even on those tougher days. And so then that just might be the 1% gain that you need to kind of keep things rolling and keep the momentum not to zero, but in the positive direction, right? And so this is something that I hope is helpful. If you are someone who is going through this process or you have something today, share it with me. So you can go to the show notes and you can send me a message. I do not see anybody's numbers or anything. You can also send me a message on Instagram, email. I get them all the time. So I am very appreciative of this. And this is something that I just wanted to tap into for the Thanksgiving anniversary episode, the little moments, because I think it's important. And I think as I was going back to with life, that for some reason there almost feels like in society that there's not enough time, and there almost feels like there's always this go, 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 go mentality. And I think sometimes we can almost lose sight of the day to day. And something me and my wife have above our bed is be where your feet are. And so our goal with these little moments and recording them and keeping each other accountable is just be where our feet are versus thinking about the next goalpost or thinking about the next thing. It's like we can embrace the journey. We can embrace being in the process and enjoying the process, right? And it doesn't have to be all sunshine and rainbows. There are times where it sucks, right? And we know that. But I think being able to see the positive in all this and having the gratitude can help so much. And it's something that maybe we kind of lose out on some of these little moments if we don't reflect on them. And these things all add up, and it keeps the momentum going, which is so huge in ACL rehab and life in general. So I hope that this is helpful, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving. This is your host, Robbie Patel, signing off.